smells, Christmas really stunk. I got nothing that I like, my gifts were all just junk.
Boxes full of clothes,
CDs no one knows. When I wanted something for my Nintendo 64. Zelda's great, Turok 2, South Park would be fine. How about Rogue Squadron? That game should be mine.
Make up for a lame Christmas. Get the hits you missed on N64.
Mom and Dad, I'm so sad.
Hey, what's up guys, how's it going? Welcome to a new series I call Life Cycles. This is where we talk about the beginning of the end of a console's life cycle. And today, we're going to be talking about the N64. Now, the N64 is a bit of a weird system. But before we get started with the games, let's just talk about the console itself. Of course, released in 1997 and it lasted till 2002, and that, I'd say, is a pretty decent lifespan for a console. And when it comes to the N64 specifically, you could really tell what games came out at the beginning and the end of the N64's lifespan. Now, of course, as we all know, compared to the PS1 and Sega Saturn, the N64 didn't really do too hot. But I'd say because of that, we got a lot of great games. Plus, with the N64, you have a very wide variety. I mean, of course, you got your typical Nintendo stuff. You got your Marios, you got your Zeldas, you got your Mario Kart, you got your TV-based games, you got your Rare. You have a bunch of good stuff on the N64, but you also have some obscure stuff, like Starshot, or Body Harvest, or Snowboard Kids. All I'm saying is you have a very wide variety when it comes to the Nintendo 64. And believe it or not, the N64's library, at least in North America, is 300 games. And if you like collecting for the N64, that's great, because I feel like the library could be easily completed. Granted, it's going to be expensive, but it's going to be easy. Enough bullshit, let's just talk about the lifespan of the N64. We'll just start with the launch titles that came out for the N64 in 1996. We will start with a somewhat obscure one. Habu Shogi. Now, when people talk about launch titles for the N64, they typically talk about Mario 64 or Pilot Wing 64. Nobody really talks about this game, and it's for a reason. It only really released in Japan. It's basically a Japanese chess game. When people talk about the N64, they typically talk about, 3D games, but I'd say this and a couple others were really the only 2D games on the console. Now, why was this a launch title for the N64? I don't know why. This is a very weird one that I definitely want to pick up one day. Number one, it's weird, and number two, I want to try out Japanese chess one day, so yeah, this is one I definitely got to pick up. Oh, just one weird fact about this game before I go. So apparently this game was celebrity endorsed. So apparently one famous Japanese shogi player won a lot of tournaments around 1996, so they made a game after him, and that's kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, like I said, nobody really talks about this game, and it's for a reason. Mario 64. Now, what could I say about this game that hasn't been said already? Of course, it's an N64 launch game. It sort of put the system on the map. And yeah, this game kind of did a lot for 3D gaming. I mean, don't get me wrong, PS1 games, Sega Saturn games, they have their place, but this console really made the 5th generation. Alright, Pilot Wing 64. Now, this was sort of another option compared to Mario 64, at least in America. Like I said, in America and Europe, you had Mario 64, Pilot Wings, that's it. But in Japan, you had Habu Shogi. But either way, we're going off the rails here. Now, Pilot Wing 64, this is a semi-sequel to the SNES game, which was also a launch title for the SNES, which is kind of weird. But it's sort of like a show game where you just fly around, get to explore different parts of America, and it's a pretty decent game for the most part. Would I recommend it? Sure, it should be a part of everybody's N64 library. Now, those are the launch titles. Now, let's just talk about the last few games that were released for the N64. Now, these are decent. These really aren't the best. Like I said before, you could really tell what games came out during the lifespan of the N64. If it was near the beginning of the N64's life cycle, it would have been, sharp textures, kind of bright. However, near the end, it was a bit darker, a bit more advanced, 3D. I don't know, I could be wrong. But we're about to look at the last few N64 games that were released in at least North America. Well, alright, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. Now, a lot of the Tony Hawk games that are released on the N64 get a bad rap. And to be honest, I disagree with this. Sure, the graphics have to be cut down because, it's on a cartridge, not a CD, but for the most part, it's the same exact game. I mean, the controls are basically the same. It's very similar to the PS1, instead of the X, square, circle, and triangle buttons, you got the C buttons and the D-pad. It's just the same, except the graphics are a little bit cut down. Now, believe it or not, this was the very last N64 game that released in North America, and I believe the N64 kind of ended with a whimper, not like a bang. I feel like the N64 should have ended better, like a Super Mario 64 sequel or another Mario Kart, I don't know. But this is alright for what it is. Alright, Madden 2002. Now, I'll be honest, I'm definitely not a sports guy, but this is a game that I want to pick up. Madden 2002 on the N64 just seems so interesting. Now, granted, today, it seems kind of scummy. Like, of course, there's still Madden games released for the Xbox 360 and last generation stuff, but with this, it's sort of different, like, because there's such a generational gap between, I don't know, the N64 and the GameCube, that it just seems so weird and quirky that Madden 2002 would be released for the N64. I mean, I don't know, I just find it weird. And the graphics on this game are decent. I mean, they're not the best. They're not compared to, you know, GameCube and PS2 and OG Xbox stuff, but for the 5th generation, this is great. Alright, Dr. Mario 64, so this isn't a bad game. It's not the best, but, you know, it's good. I can't imagine playing Dr. Mario with the N64 controls, but hey, I don't have the game, so I can't really judge. This game was released in April 8th, 2001, and that was just a couple months away from the GameCube, so I think this was the very last N64 game that it released. And again, it's decent. This is another game that I would add to anybody's N64 library, but I'd say for the most part that the N64 was just given up on way too quickly. I mean, granted, it had major crutches, like not being LCDs, censorship, this and that. The N64 had a lot of problems, but I feel like it had a lot of potential. A lot more could have been done with this console. I feel like people were just too quick to shut this console down and call it a kiddie console. The graphics weren't really too good, and to some degree, people are right. Like, when you look at the N64, you kind of think of it, I don't know, a kid's toy, even though a lot of mature games were released on it. I mean, no, Grand Theft Auto 1 was going to be released on the N64 until it was ultimately too late. A lot of games are going to be released for the system that I think could have made it a little bit better. But hey, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to, like, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, no rush, and tell me down below what's your favorite N64 game. Tell me down in the comments, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.
No.